Welcome back to the channel, guys. Zanev Tech here. Today we're doing a review of the WeMo smart plug with thread. So this is their newest version of the previous WeMo smart plug, which did not have thread but had support for Google Home and Amazon Alexa, while this one is specifically only for HomeKit. So let's get right into this video and see what has changed and what's new with this HomeKit smart plug. Version 2 of the WeMo smart plug is a bit smaller than the old one. The old one is a bit taller and wider than this one, but you can't really tell difference if they're not side by side. Otherwise, the actual design is the same. The way the wording is on the side is the same. Nothing really changes. The power button on the right side is also there, and that status light above to let you know when it's pairing or when it's on. However, what really changes is the HomeKit tag on the left side. So this HomeKit tag used to have a QR code that you scan to add it to your existing Apple Home, but this time you have an NFC tag. This tag allows you to just tap your iPhone and then add it to your existing home, and it gets rid of that step of scanning the actual code. This is not something that's actually better than before, it's just a more convenient way of adding this plug to your Apple Home. But other than that, since the form factor hasn't really changed much, you can stack these one on top of each other even with the previous generation. And even with the newer ones, if you had two new ones on the same outlet, you can put both of these plugs one above each other and they won't get in the way compared to some of the competition. So the fact that they're keeping the small form factor is something that I really like, and this is why I go with the WeMo plugs in the first place compared to the competition. Like the other ones are bigger, or might have like external sides to it, which is weird. So this one is really small, and the fact that you can stack them and have two smart plugs on one outlet is really the main selling point for me to get this smart plug over the competition. Let's talk about the setup process for this device. So it's relatively straightforward, especially with the new NFC tag, but you just plug into the wall. Once the status light changes to white, that's when you can press the power button to set up pairing mode. So once it starts alternating between orange and white for the light, then that's when you can tap your phone against the front of the device, and it's going to show up in the Home app that you want to add this device. You will select the room, and then it's going to ask you if you would like to turn on automatic updates if you have never had a Thread device before. And that is because of one reason. This device no longer supports the WeMo app. So the previous generation connected to the WeMo app and the Home app, while this one only supports the Home app. The reason being is that all the software updates are done in the Home app, and all settings can be changed in the Home app now. You no longer have to use that WeMo app. But with that comes a lack of functionality in other ways. So this device no longer supports Google Home or Amazon Alexa. This is strictly a Thread device that supports only HomeKit. So you will lose that functionality if you had it on your previous generations and you upgraded to just these. You will no longer be able to move this around between different voice assistants like you could before. So if you're a HomeKit user, that's not really a problem for you if you're using the old one with just HomeKit support. But if you use any of the other voice assistants, then that will be lacking on this specific version, as it's made only for Apple HomeKit. So that is something that you really want to keep in mind when purchasing this plug compared to some of the competition now, because the old one is not for sale anymore unless you find like a used one. And this is the only way you can go for the WeMo plugs. They're strictly HomeKit enabled products only. So let's talk about the Thread network. And you might be wondering what exactly it is. So it's really something that you can compare to the mesh Wi-Fi networks. If you're familiar with those, you have an access point, and then you have the main router, and then another access point, and they all talk to each other wirelessly. Well, the same is happening with these as well. These all connect in your home, but they all talk to each other through this mesh network that it creates if they're all Thread enabled. This also works with your Apple TV 4K and your HomePod that's also Thread enabled, so they can communicate more efficiently, and there's less no response errors in your Home app compared to some of the old standards for HomeKit devices. So that is one of the added bonuses of getting this Thread enabled smart plug compared to others. But if you don't have an Apple TV 4K or you don't have a HomePod mini, then you can also use Bluetooth with this device to connect to it. So that is something that is also possible with this device. So you're not really stuck with no connectivity options. You might be wondering, should you upgrade your version 1 to the version 2 of the HomeKit smart plug from WeMo? And all I can tell you, it's up to your situation. So pretty much if you ever use any of the other assistants, then stick with your version 1 if you have one. If you don't and you only use Apple Home, then go with the version 2 with thread support. That way you can kind of future-proof your network if you don't have any other thread devices. But I would say if you use the first generation for HomeKit only, and maybe you might go to a different assistant, definitely stick with the first one, because the lack of that on here will not allow you to ever add this to a different assistant. And that's kind of a bummer and a drawback, I could say honestly. But this was made, I think, mostly for that HomeKit user that's sure they will never go to a different assistant and they want that thread support for now. So I think this is the best choice for that user if that's your use case. So if you like this video, then definitely give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and leave me a comment down below if you have any additional questions that I didn't answer or just want to give me some feedback on this video. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Zanev Tech is out.